I was adjusting my wedding dress when I saw her do it. Vivian Harrison, my new mother-in-law, was standing by the champagne table with her back mostly turned to the reception guests. She looked around carefully, like she was checking to make sure no one was watching her, but I was watching. I saw her pull a small glass bottle from her purse. It was tiny, the kind that medicine comes in. She held it between her fingers and quietly twisted off the cap. My heart started beating faster. What was she doing? Vivian picked up 2 champagne glasses that looked exactly the same. She held one in each hand, then carefully poured whatever was in that little bottle into the left glass. The liquid disappeared into the champagne immediately, like it had never been there. I felt sick to my stomach. Was she really doing what I thought she was doing? Vivian put the empty bottle back in her purse and picked up both glasses. She started walking toward our table, the head table where Alex and I were sitting as the new bride and groom. I looked at my husband, but Alex was laughing with his best friend Tyler about something funny that happened at the bachelor party. He had no idea what was happening just a few feet away. "Meredith, darling," Vivian said with her fake sweet voice as she approached our table. "I brought you and Alex some champagne for the toasts." She set one glass directly in front of me and kept the other one for herself. The glass in front of me was the one from her left hand, the one I'd seen her pour something into. My new mother-in-law was trying to poison me on my wedding day. "Thank you," I managed to say, trying to keep my voice normal even though my hands were shaking. Vivian smiled at me, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the same cold smile she'd been giving me for 2 years, ever since Alex first brought me home to meet his parents. "You look a little pale, dear," she said, tilting her head like she was concerned. "Perhaps you should drink something. You know how important it is to stay hydrated on such a special day." She was actually encouraging me to drink the poisoned champagne. I needed to think fast. "Oh, Vivian," I said, standing up from my chair. "Could you help me fix my veil? I think it's gotten twisted." While Vivian was distracted, reaching up to touch my veil, I quickly switched our champagne glasses. The poisoned one went in front of her chair, and the safe one went where I was sitting. "There," Vivian said, stepping back. "Much better." "Thank you so much," I said, sitting back down. "You're always so helpful." If only she knew what I'd just done. About 10 minutes later, Vivian stood up and tapped her glass with a fork to get everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced loudly, "I'd like to make a toast to my son Alex and his new bride." The whole reception fell quiet. Everyone turned to look at us while Vivian lifted her champagne glass, the one that now contained whatever she'd tried to give me. "Marriage is about commitment," Vivian said, looking directly at me with those cold eyes. "It's about understanding that some people aren't as strong as others." She took a sip of champagne. "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," she continued, taking another drink. "And sometimes, life has a way of showing us who really belongs in our family and who doesn't." I watched her face carefully, wondering what was going to happen and when. "So here's to Alex," Vivian said, raising her glass higher. "May he always choose what's best for his future, even when difficult decisions need to be made." She drank again, deeper this time. That's when I saw the first sign that something was wrong. Vivian's face went slightly pale, and she blinked a few times like she was confused. Whatever she'd put in that drink was starting to work, and she had no idea what was about to happen to her. 2 years ago, I thought meeting Alex Harrison was the best thing that had ever happened to me. I was working late at the elementary school, putting up new decorations in my kindergarten classroom, when this handsome man walked in looking lost. "Excuse me," he said with the sweetest smile. "I'm looking for room 15. I'm supposed to pick up my nephew Tommy." "That's my classroom," I said, pointing to the door behind me. "Tommy's a great kid. Are you his Uncle Alex? He talks about you all the time." Alex's face lit up. "He talks about his teacher, Miss Collins, a lot, too. He says you're the nicest person in the whole world." We talked for 20 minutes while waiting for Tommy's mom to arrive. Alex was funny, kind, and clearly loved his family. When he asked if I wanted to get coffee sometime, I said yes immediately. Our first few months together were perfect. Alex was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner: thoughtful, supportive, and genuinely interested in my work with children. He'd bring me flowers after tough days and listen when I told him about my students. But then he took me home to meet his parents. "Mom, Dad, this is Meredith," Alex said proudly as we walked into their huge house. "The amazing woman I've been telling you about." Alex's father, Harold, seemed nice enough, shaking my hand and asking polite questions about my job. But Vivian looked me up and down like she was examining something unpleasant. "A kindergarten teacher," she said slowly. "How modest." "I love working with children," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "Of course you do, dear," Vivian replied with a thin smile. "It's such a simple job. No real pressure or responsibility." I felt my cheeks get hot, but Alex didn't seem to notice his mother's rudeness. Over dinner, Vivian kept making little comments that felt like tiny cuts. "Alex usually dates such sophisticated women," she said while serving dessert. "Lawyers, doctors, businesswomen, women with real careers." "Teaching is a real career," I said quietly. "Oh yes, of course," Vivian said, waving her hand. "I just meant careers that require more education, more intelligence." Alex finally spoke up. "Mom, Meredith has a college degree and a teaching certificate. She's very smart." "I'm sure she is," Vivian said, but her tone suggested she thought the opposite. As our relationship got more serious, Vivian's behavior got worse. At Alex's birthday party, she accidentally spilled red wine all over my white dress, then acted like it was my fault for standing in the wrong place. "Oh dear," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "That stain will never come out. What a shame." During family dinners, she'd tell long stories about Alex's ex-girlfriends and how wonderful they were. "Remember Lauren, honey?" she'd say to Alex. "The lawyer? Such a brilliant woman. She always dressed so elegantly. Whatever happened to her?" When I tried to talk to Alex about his mother's behavior, he always defended her. "Mom's just protective," he'd say. "She wants what's best for me. You're being too sensitive." "Alex, she's mean to me on purpose." "That's not true. She's just old-fashioned. She needs time to warm up to you." But Vivian never warmed up to me. If anything, she got colder. She'd make comments about my appearance. "You know, dear, there are wonderful salons that could do something with your hair." She'd criticize my family. "Your parents seem simple. Do they read books?" She'd question my relationship with Alex. "Are you sure you're not just interested in Alex because of his family's money?" I tried everything to win her over. I brought her flowers, complimented her cooking, and asked about her interests. But nothing worked. Vivian treated every kindness like it was suspicious, every gesture like it was fake. What I didn't understand then was that Vivian didn't want to like me. She saw me as competition for Alex's attention. She wanted to be the most important woman in his life forever. And she was willing to do anything to get rid of me, even poison me at my own wedding. I should have known Vivian would try to ruin my wedding day, but I never imagined she'd start so early. At 7 a.m, while I was getting my hair done at the hotel salon, Vivian burst into the bridal suite like there was an emergency. "Meredith," she called out, sounding panicked. "We have a terrible problem with the flowers." My sister Brooke looked up from where she was steaming my dress. "What kind of problem?" "The florist made a horrible mistake," Vivian said, wringing her hands dramatically. "All the flowers they delivered are completely wrong. Bright colors, cheerful arrangements. It looks like a children's birthday party." I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean wrong? I picked those flowers myself months ago." "Exactly the problem, dear," Vivian said with fake sympathy. "You chose such amateur arrangements. I've called the florist and told them to replace everything with white lilies. much more elegant and sophisticated. White lilies? Brooke said, frowning. Aren't those funeral flowers? They're classic, Vivian snapped. Unlike these garish roses and peonies. I loved my colorful flowers. Alex and I had spent hours picking them out together. Soft pink roses, white peonies, and greenery that would look beautiful in our outdoor ceremony. Vivian, I don't want to change the flowers, I said firmly. Well, it's too late now, she replied with a shrug. I already gave the florist the new order. They're replacing everything as we speak. Before I could argue, Vivian moved on to her next attack. Oh, and another thing, she said, looking at my wedding dress hanging on the closet door. That dress looks much cheaper than I remembered. The fabric is so ordinary. My dress was beautiful. A simple but elegant design that I'd saved for months to afford. It wasn't designer, but it made me feel like a princess. Maybe we should postpone the ceremony, Vivian continued thoughtfully. Give you time to find something more appropriate, something that won't embarrass the Harrison family. Mom wants to postpone her own wedding? Brooke said incredulously. I'm just thinking of what's best for everyone, Vivian said sweetly. Alex deserves a bride who looks the part. The dress is perfect, I said, trying not to cry. Alex chose it with me. Alex is too kind to tell you the truth, Vivian replied. Men don't understand these things. Just then, our wedding planner Camilla knocked on the door. Good morning. I brought coffee for everyone, she said cheerfully, carrying a tray of cups. How thoughtful, Vivian said, taking a cup and immediately, accidentally, spilling it all over my white wedding shoes. Oh no, Camilla gasped. Oops, Vivian said, not sounding sorry at all. How clumsy of me. I guess you'll need new shoes now, Meredith. I stared down at my coffee-stained shoes, the ones I'd broken in carefully for weeks so they'd be comfortable for dancing. This is the third accident this morning, Brooke said suspiciously. What do you mean? Camilla asked. First the flowers, then questioning the dress, now the shoes, Brooke explained. It's like she's trying to... I'm trying to help, Vivian interrupted sharply. Someone needs to make sure this wedding doesn't turn into a disaster. While I was frantically calling shoe stores to find replacements, I overheard Vivian talking to some of our early arriving guests in the hotel lobby. Poor Alex, she was saying to my great-aunt Martha. I think he's making a mistake, but young men don't listen to their mothers anymore. What kind of mistake? Aunt Martha asked. Well, Vivian said in a stage whisper, between you and me, I think Meredith is only marrying him for his money. She comes from such a modest background. Vivian, I said, approaching them. What are you telling people? Just sharing my concerns about this rushed wedding, she said innocently. Aunt Martha was asking about your family. I was asking how your parents are doing, Aunt Martha said, looking confused. When I tried to tell Alex about his mother's behavior, he was getting dressed with his groomsmen and barely listened. Meredith, you're stressed, he said, kissing my forehead. Mom's just excited and trying to help. Everything will be perfect. But nothing felt perfect anymore. Everything felt like it was falling apart. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be a relaxed evening with our closest family and friends, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Vivian had been unusually quiet during the ceremony walkthrough, which was strange because she normally had opinions about everything. She kept checking her phone and stepping away to take calls, claiming they were last-minute arrangements. After we finished practicing at the church, everyone headed back to the hotel restaurant for dinner. I went to the bathroom to touch up my makeup before joining the group. That's when I heard Vivian's voice coming from the phone booth area near the lobby. Yes, I understand the risks, she was saying quietly into her phone. But this problem needs to be solved permanently. I stopped walking, my heart starting to race. Something about her tone made me want to listen. Tomorrow night during the reception, Vivian continued, it needs to look natural, like food poisoning or something she ate. Food poisoning? Was she talking about me? I don't care how sick it makes her, Vivian said coldly. The goal is to get her to the hospital and ruin the whole evening. Make everyone see how unstable and dramatic she is. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to stay hidden while I listened. Alex will finally understand that she's not the right person for our family, Vivian went on. When she's vomiting and collapsing in front of all our friends, he'll see how embarrassing she really is. My blood turned cold. Vivian was planning to poison me. Yes, I have everything I need, she said. Just enough to make her violently ill without permanent damage. Though honestly, if it were a little more serious, that wouldn't bother me either. I felt like I was going to be sick myself. My future mother-in-law was casually discussing ways to hurt me badly enough to send me to the hospital. I'll call you after it's done, Vivian said. This wedding will be the last time that girl causes problems for my family. I heard her footsteps coming back toward the restaurant, so I quickly ducked into the bathroom and locked the door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial Alex's number. Hey, beautiful, he answered. Where are you? Everyone's asking for the bride. Alex, I need to tell you something important about your mother. Meredith, whatever it is. Can it wait until after dinner? Everyone's here and the food is getting cold. She's planning to hurt me tomorrow, I said desperately. I just heard her on the phone talking about making me sick at the reception. Alex laughed. Honey, you're stressed. Mom might be a little difficult sometimes, but she's not dangerous. You're letting wedding nerves make you paranoid. Alex, please listen to me. Meredith, I love you, but you need to relax. Come eat dinner and stop worrying about things that aren't real. He hung up before I could explain what I'd actually heard. When I got back to the restaurant, I pulled my sister Brooke aside. I need to talk to you privately, I whispered. We stepped outside onto the hotel patio, and I told her everything I'd overheard. She said what? Brooke's eyes went wide with shock. She's planning to poison me tomorrow night, make me sick enough to go to the hospital and embarrass me in front of everyone. Meredith, that's insane. Are you sure you heard correctly? I know how it sounds, but I'm positive. She was talking about making it look like food poisoning and getting me out of the family permanently. Brooke stared at me for a long moment, then nodded grimly. I believe you, she said. Vivian has been horrible to you since day one. This is exactly the kind of thing she'd do. Alex thinks I'm being paranoid. Alex is blind when it comes to his mother, but I'm not. We need to watch her like a hawk tomorrow. What if she really tries to hurt me? Then we'll be ready for her, Brooke said firmly. We'll stick together and we won't let her near your food or drinks. As we walked back inside, I felt a little better knowing my sister believed me, but I also realized that tomorrow was going to be the most dangerous day of my life. The wedding ceremony had been beautiful, despite Vivian's attempts to ruin it with her funeral flowers and constant criticism. Now, at the reception, I was trying to enjoy being Mrs. Alex Harrison while staying alert for whatever Vivian had planned. Brooke had positioned herself strategically near the bar where she could watch Vivian's every move. We'd agreed on a simple signal. If Brooke saw anything suspicious, she'd touch her earrings to warn me. You look tense, Alex said as we swayed together during our first dance. Everything okay? Just happy, I lied, smiling up at my new husband. It's been a perfect day. Over Alex's shoulder, I could see Vivian at our family table, but she wasn't eating or socializing like the other guests. She kept looking around nervously and checking something in her small silver purse. When our dance ended, Vivian immediately approached us. Alex, darling, there are some business associates of your father's who want to congratulate you, she said, taking his arm. They're over by the appetizer table. Sure, Mom, Alex said, then turned to me. I'll be right back, okay? As Alex walked away with his mother, I noticed she kept glancing back at me. Something about her expression made my skin crawl. 10 minutes later, when cocktail hour officially began, I watched Vivian volunteer to help the bartender serve drinks to the head table. "I know exactly what everyone likes," she told the young man behind the bar. "Let me take care of the wedding party's drinks personally." My heart started racing. This was it. This was her plan. I pretended to be talking to my cousin while keeping my eyes on Vivian. She carefully selected 2 identical champagne flutes from the clean glasses behind the bar. They looked exactly the same, clear crystal with long, elegant stems. Vivian turned slightly away from the crowd and pulled something small from her purse. It was a tiny glass vial, the kind that prescription eye drops come in. She glanced around quickly to make sure no one was watching her. But I was watching. With practiced movements like she'd rehearsed this many times, Vivian unscrewed the cap of the vial and carefully poured whatever was inside into the champagne flute in her left hand. The liquid was clear and mixed with the champagne immediately, leaving no trace that anything had been added. She put the empty vial back in her purse and picked up both glasses, the poisoned one in her left hand, the safe one in her right. My mouth went dry as I realized she was walking directly toward me. "Meredith, sweetheart," Vivian said with her fake smile, approaching the head table where I was sitting. "I brought you some champagne for the toast coming up." She set the glass from her left hand, the poisoned one, directly in front of me and kept the clean glass for herself. "Thank you," I managed to say, even though my voice sounded strange. "You should drink up," Vivian said encouragingly. "You look a bit pale. Champagne will give you some color for the photos." She was actually trying to convince me to drink the poisoned champagne faster. "That's so thoughtful of you," I said, trying to sound normal. Vivian smiled and walked a few steps away to greet other guests, but I could tell she was watching me from the corner of her eye. This was my chance. I stood up from my chair and called out, "Vivian, could you help me with something? My veil seems to be caught on my chair." When Vivian turned around and stepped closer to help me, I quickly switched our champagne glasses. The poisoned glass went in front of her chair, and the safe one went where I had been sitting. "There," Vivian said, adjusting my veil. "Much better." "Thank you so much," I said, sitting back down. Vivian had no idea what I'd just done. A few minutes later, she stood up to make her toast, picking up the champagne glass in front of her chair, the one that now contained whatever poison she'd intended for me. As she raised that glass to her lips and began talking about marriage and strength, I held my breath. Whatever was about to happen, Vivian had brought it on herself. Vivian stood up and tapped her champagne glass with a fork, getting everyone's attention for her mother-of-the-groom toast. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice carrying across the reception hall, "I'd like to say a few words about my son Alex and his new bride." The room fell quiet as all 120 guests turned to listen. Vivian looked confident and elegant in her navy blue dress, holding the champagne glass that contained whatever poison she'd intended for me. "Marriage is a journey of discovery," Vivian began, taking a small sip from her glass. "You learn who people really are when they're tested." She paused and took another drink, longer this time. "Some people are strong enough to handle life's challenges," she continued, looking directly at me with those cold eyes. "And some people show their true colors when things get difficult." Another sip, bigger now. "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," Vivian said, raising her glass higher. "And sometimes life has a way of showing us exactly who deserves to be part of our family and who doesn't." The guests were shifting uncomfortably. This didn't sound like a typical wedding toast. "So here's to Alex," Vivian said, taking a much larger drink this time. "May he always have the wisdom to choose what's truly best for his future, even when difficult decisions need to be made." That's when I saw the first sign that something was wrong. Vivian blinked several times rapidly, like she was having trouble focusing. Her face, which had been flushed with excitement, suddenly went pale. "And to Meredith," she continued, but her voice sounded different now, slightly slurred. May she learn that actions have consequences." She lifted the glass to take another drink, but her hand was shaking slightly. "Mom," Are you okay? Alex called out from across the table. I'm fine, Vivian said, but she didn't sound fine. She sounded confused. Just a little warm in here. She tried to continue her toast, but now she was swaying slightly on her feet. Marriage is about, she started, then stopped, looking lost. Several guests were murmuring with concern now. Something was clearly wrong. Vivian? Harold, Alex's father, stood up and moved toward his wife. Honey, maybe you should sit down. I need to finish, Vivian insisted, but her words were definitely slurred now. Need to tell everyone about the truth. She took another sip of champagne, and that's when things got really bad. Vivian's face went from pale to greenish. She clutched her stomach with her free hand and made a small groaning sound. Oh no, she whispered. Then louder, I don't feel well. The champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor as Vivian doubled over in pain. Something's wrong, she gasped. My stomach. I think I'm going to... Before she could finish the sentence, Vivian collapsed onto the floor, vomiting violently. The reception erupted in chaos. Call 911, Harold shouted. Is there a doctor here? Someone else yelled. Alex rushed to his mother's side while guests backed away from the head table. Vivian was writhing on the floor, clutching her stomach and retching. Mom, what's wrong? What happened? Alex kept asking, but Vivian could barely speak. Poisoned, she managed to whisper between bouts of sickness. Someone poisoned. The paramedics arrived within 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. They quickly checked Vivian's vital signs and loaded her onto a stretcher. We need to get her to the hospital immediately, one paramedic told Harold. Whatever she ingested, it's serious. As they wheeled Vivian away, she was barely conscious but kept mumbling about being poisoned. Alex was devastated and confused. Who would do this? He kept asking. Who would want to hurt Mom? I stood there pretending to be as shocked as everyone else, but inside I was terrified. Whatever Vivian had put in that drink was strong enough to nearly kill her, and now this was going to become a police investigation. 3 hours later, I was sitting in a hospital waiting room still wearing my wedding dress, watching police officers question our wedding guests about what had happened to Vivian. Mrs. Harrison, Detective Martinez said, approaching Alex and me. We've finished testing your mother's blood, and she definitely ingested a dangerous substance. This wasn't an accident. Alex's face was pale with shock. You mean someone really tried to poison her? The substance we found would cause severe digestive distress, dehydration, and could have been fatal if she'd consumed more of it, the detective explained. We're treating this as attempted murder. My heart was pounding, but I tried to look as confused and concerned as Alex did. Has my mother said anything about who might have done this? Alex asked. She's been in and out of consciousness, but when she's lucid, she keeps saying someone at the wedding poisoned her drink, Detective Martinez replied. She specifically mentioned being concerned about threats to the family. I felt cold all over. Vivian was trying to make it sound like someone had targeted her. What kind of threats? Alex asked. Before the detective could answer, Camila Rodriguez, our wedding planner, approached us. Excuse me, she said nervously. I think I need to tell you something about Mrs. Harrison. What kind of something? Detective Martinez asked, pulling out his notebook. I saw her acting very strangely during the reception, Camilla said. She volunteered to help serve drinks, which was unusual because she'd never offered to help with anything before. Go on, the detective encouraged. She was very particular about which glasses she took to the head table. She seemed to be... I don't know how to say this, but it looked like she was being secretive about something. Alex frowned. Secretive how? She kept looking around to make sure no one was watching her, and she had something in her purse that she kept checking on. Detective Martinez wrote everything down. Did you see what was in her purse? No, but she was very protective of it. And when she brought the drinks to your table, she seemed to know exactly which glass went where. The detective looked thoughtful. We'll need to review any security footage from the venue. 2 hours later, Detective Martinez returned with a tablet in his hands. We found something interesting, he said to Alex and me. The hotel has security cameras in the reception hall. He showed us the footage. There was Vivian, clear as day, adding something from a small vial to one of the champagne glasses before walking to our table. Alex stared at the screen in disbelief. That's my mother poisoning someone. The question is who, Detective Martinez said. Mrs. Harrison placed one glass in front of your wife and kept the other for herself. I watched Alex's face as he realized what the footage meant. She was trying to poison Meredith, he whispered. My mother tried to poison my wife. But she drank from the poisoned glass herself, the detective pointed out. How do you explain that? I took a deep breath. It was time to tell the truth. I switched our glasses, I said quietly. Both men stared at me. You switched them? Alex asked. I saw her put something in the drink before she brought it to me. When she was distracted, I switched our glasses so she would drink from the poisoned one instead. Detective Martinez looked at me carefully. Mrs. Harrison, that's a very serious accusation. It's the truth. She's been trying to get rid of me since Alex and I started dating. Tonight, she finally tried to do it permanently. An hour later, when Vivian was conscious enough to be questioned, she was confronted with the security footage and my testimony. At first, she denied everything. But when the detective found the empty vial in her purse and explained that her fingerprints were on it, she finally broke down. I was protecting my son, she screamed. That girl was ruining his life. She's not good enough for the Harrison family. So you tried to poison her? Detective Martinez asked. I just wanted to make her sick enough to embarrass her, to show Alex what kind of person she really was. Alex stared at his mother with horror and disgust. I never want to see you again, he told her quietly. 6 months later, after Vivian was sentenced to 5 years in prison for attempted poisoning, Alex and I renewed our vows in a small ceremony with just our closest friends. This time there was no one there who wanted to hurt me. This time it was perfect.